They just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray, for the Western press and the Western narrative, regurgitating the same old, same old, same old, every single day, without which please watch the first two episodes, the second series. Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Hello there everyone, it's me again. It's current affairs, what's going on in the world, as we all know. And they could say, what's going on in the world? Why is it such a mess? This is what people are saying actually. This is what they're saying. God blimey, I forgot my water. Excuse me while I get my water. It'll be 1 minute. Well, it won't be a minute, it'll just be a few seconds. I'm awfully sorry. Completely forgot about it. My water. It's no use going with me in the desert, is it? Mr. Walter Frank, oh, it's back at base. Anyway, how are you all? I hope you're all good. Ready to go. As I say, big up Franco Italiano. Thank you. Really grazie. Mine. Hi Frank and friends. Only 3 comments, eh? Only 3. Gonna ask you a question as well. The saying, to feel pain, you're alive. To feel other people's pain, you're human. There's a quote attributed to Leo Tolstoy. Yes, that's precisely right. The great man, the War and Peace man. I'm going to ask you a question in a moment. And it says, good evening, Frank, from Johan, our good friend Johan. Good evening, Frank and legends in the chat. Hope everyone is well. We are truly in Orwell's 1984 with the introduction of all those or these digital ID programs around the world. Well, they're looking at us now, believe it or not. They're looking at us. Hello, Mary, says Evan. Toscana. Ciao, Franco. Well, ciao, everyone. I'll turn my water into the water. Do you know what? I have to put my glasses on again. That's what we're here. Oh, we're here. Back again. Back again. You can see now properly. Edward, Johan. Hi, Edward, says Myra. Toscana. Hello, Toscana, says Edward. And Johan, Edward, with 2 pints. He's generous, isn't he? Well, anyway, I'm going to ask you a question here. And I just want a straightforward yes or no. It's as simple as that. Right? Was Russia justified in going into Ukraine? Just a straightforward yes or no. Please. And then we'll start. And as Shakespeare once said, hell is empty because all the devils are here. You think about that, and it's so going back. It's going back to the latter part of the 16th century, the 1580s, 90s. Think about that. All the devils are here. Johan, yes. Straightforward question. Was Russia going into Ukraine justified? Because people, they don't realize about the situations before. Remember, there's always a seed. You just don't go in. They just don't go in to a country. When I was studying the Roman Empire, there was a fellow by the name of Vericus, and he was the leader of the Macedonian kingdom here in England. And these fellas, Tommy Dobnus and his brother, were trying to take over his client kingdom because they didn't like the Romans. So anyway, Caraticus, right? So they went over. Vericus went over to Rome and said, "Listen, can you help me out because these?" So that was the motive for them to go over, and they went over in the Claudian invasion and sorted it out. He went after Caraticus. Caraticus went, he was going all around. He was saying, the Romans are coming, come and fight them. But the Romans were defeating the tribes that he was going to. And he finally got to, around where the Midlands is, the Brigantes, but they had a queen, Cartamandua. And she wasn't anti, she was pro-Roman because she wanted a trade, she wanted to do good for their people. So she said, "Oh, well, he's throwing down there. Okay." So she captured him and waited for the Romans to come. The Romans took him and brought him back to Rome. And they paraded him down, one of the greatest warriors of the new land, Britannicus. And they didn't kill him or anything. They actually made him out to be a hero, and they gave him a pension and a villa. But anyway, everybody had to have a motive. All the world wars had a motive to go into. So, were they justified? I said they can't. Of course you do. Of course you do. Hey, Callum, says Myra. Myra, says Callum. Yes, says Myra. They were justified. And Edward says, is it because NATO would have been on their border? We'll be talking about that. It's surprising, honestly, surprising. A lot of people believe BBC News and ITV News, says Edward. I don't watch them. The Ottoman Turk, evening goal, even an Ottoman. The Ottoman Turk. Callum, new shirts are looking nice. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. And get me little granddaughter one. She doesn't have Frimpong on the back. You want Frimpong? She's going to the game on Monday. She's looking forward to it. The friendly first game at Anfield. So she's made up go, and she's also going to Wembley against Crystal Palace. Air in the mum. So, why were they justified? It was simple because from the coup d'etat in 2014, led by Victoria Nuland, the CIA and MI6, to overthrow a democratically elected president, to put in a puppet in Kiev. Now you've got to ask why. You've got to ask why. Well, why did they want to get rid of Putin? Why? Why did they want to overthrow Putin? Because this was the start of Ukraine. Put in, have a proxy war. Have a proxy war. And we'll be right behind them. And don't forget, this is all Europe as well, Western Europe. Because there's always been an anti-Russian agenda. In other words, Russophobia. And it's wrong. Russia was a sovereign state, is a sovereign state. And they've all ganged up. And ever since the wall came down in 1989, the Berlin Wall, that is, Gorbachev was promised by the Americans that NATO wouldn't expand eastward. Do you trust the Americans? No, because look where NATO is today. They're everywhere. They've surrounded Russia. But they said the red line, the Russians, is Ukraine. And what did you have Hunter Biden doing? He was in Ukraine and he set up, I forget how many, biolabs right on the border of Ukraine. So what was he there setting up these biolabs for? See what I mean? And this is all hushed up. These are all on Hunter Biden's laptop. All on Hunter Biden's laptop. Everything. All the dirty details of the dirty work by MI6, CIA, Victoria Nuland, the American government, in other words. The likes of Obama, he got a Peace Prize, by the way. Remember Nobel Peace Prize? And at the time I said, oh, he got rid of Gaddafi. Where was the peace he had? I'd love to know where he brought peace to anyway. And yet he got a Nobel Peace Prize. Same as this fella now, Trump. He got a Nobel Peace Prize. Where's he brought peace to? He's such an idiot. He really is. And he expects you and I to believe everything he's saying. You know, he said to Zelensky and Europe, we're not giving any more weapons to Ukraine. But It's coming through NATO. The weapons, they're supplying NATO with weapons. So if you want to buy them, this is what he said to the Europeans, if you want to buy them off NATO. He said, because we're not giving them. NATO is America. No one else. America. There's a place called Kaliningrad, and it's part of Russia, but it's bordered, and it's not right on. It's not within Russia, if you know what I mean. It's like, how can I put this? It's like, say, the Falklands, for example, which is down at the South Atlantic. Well, the British own that. The British own. So it's not that far away, like from Russia, but you know, it's not part of the Russian mainland, like the Isle of Man, for example. So, and they're surrounded by Lithuania, places like that, the Balkans. And this General Donahue, he said, they've actually planned and done training. You know, when they have these war training things, war games, to go into Kaliningrad. Now, this is the thickness of America. It's right on the Baltic, by the way, see? Now, to think that they could just go into Kaliningrad and Russia will do that, it's Russian sovereignty. It's Russian sovereignty. And in the Baltic, Russia has nuclear submarines and big battleships. And it's so pathetic that this is just coming out. This General Donahue, who failed in Afghanistan, honestly, they're thick. Absolutely thick. They've got no strategy. They've got nothing. They've got no leverage over Russia. That's why, look, listen to me. If they knew, America knew, and NATO knew that they could defeat Russia, they'd be well boots on the ground in Ukraine. But they can't. But there are boots, you know, they are fighting NATO in the guise of, you know, they're putting on Ukrainian uniforms and also mercenaries, but these are NATO trained men and they're getting slaughtered every day. That's why they won't do it. And you've got to laugh at these people. Trump's come around and turned around today and said, or yesterday, whenever it was, he said, we're putting tariffs now on Russia, and we're putting them on India as well. And he went mad at India because they said, we're not buying any planes off you. We're not buying any of these planes. We're going to make our own planes. We're setting up our own industry, arms industry. Now, if you think about it, the world, more or less, with the exception of Russia and China, you know, these big mad superpowers, nuclear superpowers, they wouldn't buy anything off the Americans because they got their own and better. And better. It's been proved in Ukraine. And you've got Mert sending over 2 Patriot things, which are going to be blown up as soon as they reach Ukraine. That's why he wants more weapons, more money. Pathetic. And where's the money going? Remember when the Americans turned around and there was some American, it was Trump himself, And he said, we're investigating where this money's gone. This 350 billion. Then all of a sudden, they shut down these more or less auditors, Zelensky, for a couple of weeks. Why do you think he did that? Think about it. Why do you think he shut down this thing? And he said, oh, we'll do our own investigation. Trump said, no, you won't. And now, a couple of weeks later, it's opened again. Even the EU, those pathetic lunatics, they said, we're sending you no more money. We want to know why you shut this. Forget what it's called. I forget the abbreviation of it. I'm not bothered, to be honest. So anyway, now that he said, we brought them back, yet they're all right now, so they can investigate. So the EU turns around and said, well, that's good, that's a great step, now we can give you the money, because they ain't giving them money. I've said all along, right from the off, that these people, Ukraine, is the biggest money laundering scam in the world. The biggest. It's just a washing machine. Ukraine. It's not a sovereign country. It's a washing machine where the money's going around and it's going here, there, and everything. That's where the money's gone. It's gone to Zelensky. There's an audio thing by, don't ask me his name. He's a confidant of Zelensky. And he goes into his bathroom, to do these secret calls and whatever. Little did he know that he was being recorded. And it's all on audio where this money's gone. And his bathroom, this is when he goes into his bathroom. Beautiful. It's all gold. The bathroom. How could he afford that? Because Ukraine politicians and these people surrounding, they're on the lowest paid in the whole of Europe. The lowest paid. So just let me because I've just seen Stephen Mulholland there. Just bear with me a moment, please. I'll go through these. This is a very, very good. Toscana, I can only think to do with the Donbass area and protect the people that are in that area. No, you're not wrong. I may be wrong, but I don't think the people are allowed to vote in the Ukraine elections. Yes, you're right there as well. I've got friends. We'll talk about that in a moment, Toscana. They don't hold elections anymore, says Johan to Toscana. Bella tell. Ciao Franco and everyone. Hope you're all well. Yes. We're all raring to go tonight, Bella. And Toscana says, we Ukrainian dads, so they can see it differently and detest anything to do with Russia. Yeah. Yep. Toscana says, I meant to say the people of the Donbass area are not allowed to vote in the Ukrainian election. Of course, neither are the Ukrainian, neither are the people who support Zelensky. They're not allowed to vote. Because if they were allowed to vote, Zelensky would be out. The mainstream news wants us to believe Russia's bad. Yes. Ukraine nice and cuddly. That's why I don't watch it. exactly. Right. How you want? How you invite it? And Stephen, as me mate this, good friend, he says, I find the next president of the Ukraine might be Valery Zelensky because he is another Western puppet. He is the general of the Azov Nazis, of course he is, in the Ukraine, and he will be appointed by the US and UK. He's worse than Zelensky. This fella's a loser. He's a failed general anyway. Just like that Sersky, he's a failed general. Just like the Americans all failed fighting the Russians, and they want to fight China too. But Zelensky, horrible man. Horrible man. Azov, Nazi. But according to, Britain, America, and all Western Europe, oh, no Nazis in there. No Nazis in there. Ukraine. Yet the leaders who were saying that are Nazis themselves. MI6, big Nazi. Dad was the granddad was the butcher of Ukraine in the war, SS officer. Kaya Kallas, Nazi family, SS in the war. Ursula von der Leyen, SS in the war. And everyone, Baerbock, they're all on it. Mates, the Chancellor, his family, Nazis, SS. You can't make it up. You cannot make it up. This is going back. This is going back to the 1930s. One big circle. Don't forget what they said. We will never die out. We will be back. We will return. That's what they said. Frightening people. See, the Donbass, Putin warned them after the coup d'etat in 2014, where people died and 40 odd people were burnt alive in a union place by these horrible people. Burnt alive. In Odessa. So Putin was warning them, because once that happened, and then they started to go at the Donbass, but not just the Donbass, but also the Lugansk area as well, the Oblast. Lugansk. And they took Crimea, didn't they? They went in and said, we've had enough of this. And they had a referendum. Do you want to come into the Russian Federation? And overwhelmingly said, yeah, these are the Crimeans. So they became part of the Russian Federation. And then they went around to the Oblast, Zaporozhye, for example, the Donbass Oblast, Lugansk Oblast. And they asked, would you like to be in the Russian Federation? They held referendums, and they all said, yeah, we do. But the West tell you that they were pathetic, It was at gunpoint that they voted to vote for yes, to be part of the Russian Federation. And this is what you're getting. This is the propaganda. And Putin warned that the people of the Donbass are being shelled. And he called it a genocide because they said we're going to wipe them all out. All these Russian-speaking people, pro-Russians. And Putin was saying, it's got to stop, help us. He was saying to the West wouldn't do it because that's what you call poking the bear, because they wanted this. They wanted it. That's why they overthrew the legitimate government that people voted for, actually. So it'll be very interesting to see if they had an election, a proper election, who would they vote for, who would they throw out. But with no elections and with no voting, because the other fella declared martial law, because he said, oh, you can't have an election during the wartime. But he's on his way out anyway, Zelensky. And as Stevens said, this illusion will be taken over. He's handpicked, that's why he's ambassador to Ukraine in London here. Azov, Nazi. Johan, Frank didn't India call bollocks on Trump's Nobel Peace Prize nomination for breaking the ceasefire? Yeah. See, what's he done now? Trump is going to trade with Pakistan. Think about it. It's only the other week that they were having skirmishes on the Indian-Pakistani border. And they've always been small enemies. So he said, I'm going to trade now with Pakistan. That's what Trump's like. You know, if you think about it. He jumps from one to another. And he keeps saying, he only said it today, this isn't my war. Well, if it's not his war, why didn't he just walk away? Of course it's his war. He was arming Ukraine. And who else was he arming? That's right, Israel. And you see what's happening over there. And he was arming. How could he get a peace prize? And one of his great sponsors of a peace prize is none other than Netanyahu. He nominated Trump for the peace prize. You can't make these things up. It's like what I said before. Hell is empty because all the devils are here. Shakespeare. See what I mean? See what I mean about quotes and things? I think it was Johan who said, who said about, I don't know who said, I'm sorry. Who said about George Orwell's 1984. It's all coming to fruition. Been up since there. I've been waiting for my bed to come. Should have seen the state of me. Trying to James, the editor, as he came and took the bed away. My one. But anyway, May's up at the new bed. Francine came down, put it together. James came down, took the old one away. But, you know, it's a good bed. It's a big double one. Very good bed. In great condition. And, you know, one of them divan ones. And James, I'm going to be talking about his philanthropy, honestly, when Anthony and I talk about philanthropists. He's an unbelievable lad. He gives everything free. You don't have to buy nothing, just like petrol money, like a tenner or 20, a drop off to drop these things off. But I'll be talking more in depth about it when we talk about philanthropists. Great lad. So he took us away and he's brought us up to some fella who's got nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the kids, they're all sleeping in this big bed with the dad. He's got no other beds. And he said, I'll have that, James, because he put us up. Can I have it, please? And he said, Francis, Uncle Francis, he said, this fella's made up with it, because he put a picture, I took a picture, put it up, gave it to James, and he put it up on his site. And this fella was made, the other people were asking for it. Made up, the fella. And there's bedding as well. I left the bed because it's a big divan. And James said, there's all bedding there. I said, just give them it because I've got a smaller one now. Christopher. Hi, Frank and everyone. Like and subscribe. The Snape. If Alexander the Great and Hugo as boss, then go with the flow, Reds. And they're seamlessly slot. Very good. Good evening, sir, says Johan. Do you know, you get these things, don't you, really? And Perry says, is Putin going to, yet they've gone back, mate? You want to, that they're all happy. They're back with the parents because they were being shelled. They're all back from the camp. Well educated. So, yes. Don't be listening to the BBC, all right? So there. Never mind, Perry, lads, stay with us and, just, you might get some news about what's going on, rather than, reading the Western media and all the propaganda and Mr. Trump and everybody. Because when was the last time you heard about these children, by the way? When was the last time you heard? Can you explain? Please. I'm asking politely, just explain about these kids that Putin was accused of kidnapping from back with the parent in the loving arms of their parent because they're in the Russian Federation now. So it's part of Russia now. These kids from the Donbass, it's part of Russia. They're little Russian kids, not Ukrainian. Did you know that? Did you know that? I hope you did there, Perry. I hope you do know that they're not Ukrainian, they're Russian. And Russian speaking, by the way. Not Ukrainian. This is what I mean. This is what you get. I'm a clue. I'm a clue. Hi, Frank. Truth will set you free, says the Red Bird. Couldn't put it any better, Red Bird. And Snapey says, evening, Johan. I asked a question there, Snapey and Redbird, and the first question was Russia justified in going into Ukraine in February 2022? Were they justified? Snapey, well said, mate. Whatever Snapey said. Yeah, but they were being, this is why they were taken away. They were being shelled by the Ukrainians. It was a civil war from 2014. They were being killed, Perry, being killed. Now they're not Ukrainian. They were Russian-speaking Ukrainians. Now they're not. They're Russian. Because the Donbass had a big referendum. They wanted to be part, not of Ukraine anymore. They said, fuck you lot. Because they were being killed by them. So they had a referendum. They all voted to be in the Russian Federation. That's it. That's it. They're in the Russian Federation. They're Russian now. They're not Ukrainian. Or can you get your head around that? I'm not being impolite or anything. I'm just putting you straight. They're Russian. They want to be known as Russian. That's why the parents and everybody else voted to stay in the Russian Federation, or to be in the Russian Federation, not Ukraine. 15,000 of them were murdered by the Ukrainian Kiev. 15,000 of them murdered. Whether you know that or not, I don't know, but now you do know. This is why he went in. This is why he's gone in, not to... I'd say yes, Putin was trying to stop the genocide of his people. Say that to Perry. Only in your head. Yeah. Only in your head, Perry. Only in your head, fella. Only in your head, not my head. And Johan says, Perry seems to forget they were all Soviet until 1991. An active economy with mass migration of population for the development of the region. And Redbird says, Perry, I guess you can't handle the truth. Never mind. Most sheeple can't. Never mind. Most sheeple can't. And that's the problem. That is the problem. With everything. These people. I suppose he backs the greatest prime minister of all time, Keir Starmer. If you support the people that are against what's happening in Gaza, well, you should support the same people like these people. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. So, Perry, stay with us and just listen. That's all. That's all. Bless up, Myra. You see, the likes of Trump, what he's doing, he's terrified. He's terrified of BRICS. He's terrified. And this is why he's going after the likes of, this is why he's going after the likes of Iran. He just wants to bomb F. When was the last time Iran invaded a country? Why does he want Iran? Why does he want to put in the son of the last Shah? Hey, the son of, and he wants to put him as a puppet. The last Shah of Iran. So the son, you know, the original Shah's gone dead. So they want to put him in. Do you know why? Any idea? Because they want all the resources of Iran. Iran has a multitude of resources, including oil. You see, that's why. That's why he wanted to break up Russia. Well, he didn't, you know, but he was part of it in, you know, in his first term by giving Ukraine loads of arms before the SMO. So he knew what he was doing. And when he comes out with a load of bollocks and says, it's not my war, it's Biden's, which is, you know that it's a load of nonsense because he was part of the, him and Obama. He got a peace prize. Obama. The same fella who got rid of Gaddafi. The same, suppose Perry believes that Gaddafi was an evil man who, you know, killed all his people and raped all women. I suppose he believes that as well, what the West was saying. And I suppose that he believed in Bashar Assad, you know, barrel bombing his own people. This is what we have to put up, unfortunately. Get the haircut tomorrow. I read Bird says Myra Page. Myra says tariffs is going to bite back at the EU. This is why they're thick. They haven't a clue. Whoever Lindsey Graham is the most obnoxious American. He's a Russophobe at the highest level. And Trump has taken notice of him. He's in his ear. Graham, he's in his ears. Yeah. He's horrible at it. We can have it. So just think about it, honestly. Think. If the USA and NATO think that they could have taken, you know, destroyed Russia on the battlefield, they would have well gone in. Even Europe. There's John Ely. Here's John Ely of, yeah. What I've got to say, an arsehole he is. He wants to go to war with China over Taiwan, who's a part of China. Think about it. We can't even stop dinghies in the channel. He wants to set them up. fight the Russians in the Baltic or wherever they're going to be. Johan, the Shah's son Ismail praised the Israeli bombings of Iran. Yeah, it was treacherous behaviour. Also, his father was a puppet of the West. Yeah, of course he was. And they brought Khomeini in, the Ayatollah from Paris. He was in exile, wasn't he? He brought him in. And they've hated that ever since. When Jimmy Carter was president, and they had hostages, the Iranians had American hostages and said, don't start any bombing here. So Jimmy Carter, I thought this was hilarious. I know it's sad, but hilarious at the same time. Jimmy Carter sent in these helicopters, these Marines or whatever they were. And the British said, listen, we know all the terrain. We'll go in for them, And they went, no, you're okay. We can sort this. And what happens to the helicopters in the desert? They all crashed. Kill the crews. The Iranians let them go in the end, of course. So they've never been forgiven. Michael J. What kind of president announces he's not into golden showers to an audience of high school students? Little wonder we have Trump saber out of course. Yeah. He's a complete idiot. A complete, pure, unadulterated idiot. And people are following him. Look, we've got unelected leaders in Brussels. Unelected. And they're telling the leaders of Europe what to do. But when you look closely at the leaders of countries in Western Europe, they're dead. Honestly. The brain dead. They don't know the realities of what's going on. They must pick up the Daily Express or the Daily Mail and say, look, the Russians are weakening. They're running out of ammunition. Do you ever remember a couple of years ago when von der Leyen said Russia is running out of chips, and that's why they're using washing machine chips? Do you ever remember? They've got the biggest military complex on the planet. You've got all the resources in Russia. The Americans and the West would love to have. As I said, when the wall came down and the breakup of the Soviet Union, but guess what? Here's how it went. And this tells you about the Americans. The British went into Russia, the new Russia, the Russian Federation, and set up, all the, they set up all the communications, the phone, everything they set up. First class job. And America set up McDonald's. Besides helping them with the oil wells, putting new kings up, the chain, and all the oil comes up and out and whatever. That's McDonald's. McDonald's. Lindsey Graham says my opinion is a clown and a pig. Yes. Ciao Toscana, says Bella. Sto bene, grazie. I'm okay, thanks, says Toscana. Sto bene. They are not brain dead, they are all compromised. Look, if you were running a country and you know that it's going nowhere and you're in dire trouble, you've only got to look at von der Leyen, what she did, and she accepted the trade deal with Trump. And I've got to, please, don't get me up, but it's fucked Europe up. The trade deal. Oban said, what's she done? And she sits there and she knows it. Don't get me wrong, they know the realities, but they can't go against what they were doing for their, even our government under the Tories. Alexa Liz Truss, Liz Truss, Sunak. Theresa May. But they can't go against, they never ever say we were wrong. They never admit it. I'll tell you who else never admit they're wrong or they made a mistake. Shall I tell you who it is? The police. The police never say we made a mistake. Knowing full well that they did make a mistake. Loads of it, right through the years. Never admit a mistake. And it's the same as the politicians. How many times through your years that you've been looking at a politician and talking about this country and say, oh, we made a mistake? What do? They sack them, don't they? Say like in the Prime Minister and you had like a Home Secretary or a Chancellor of the Exchequer and they made the biggest blunder. You get the sack. Rather than the Prime Minister, because he's gone over everything that they've been, say like the budget, and they got the budget completely and utterly wrong. So you think the Prime Minister's looked at that and went, gave it the okay, yeah, that's great, that big tick. He's presented there to everything up. And the Prime Minister, oh, he's got to go. Or she's got to go. Whoever it is. They never admit mistakes. Trump probably prefers Brown being the pig. Yes. Has Perry gone? Looks like he never answered my question. What I gave him. Never answered. Unless he realizes that Donbass is now part of the Russian Federation and they don't want to be called Ukrainians. They want to be called Russian because the Russian-speaking people anyway. And, he never got back over the kids. Is Russia going to give back the Ukraine kids? Big mistake to say that. Because they're not Ukraine kids, they're Russian kids. Damn. Most probably Perry would call me a Putin puppet. Have you noticed the way they say these things? They label you Putin puppet. Oh, wait, what? Why am I a Putin puppet? I always look for motives. I'm a historian, and I think I'm a good one. I really do. Now, I knew about, I suppose Perry wouldn't even know where fucking Ukraine is, before all this. Where? What is it? But I knew all about Ukraine. I knew about it. Even America's older than Ukraine. So if you take that Russia, the Odessa, for example, has always been in Ukraine. Ukraine was a made-up country by Khrushchev. And the likes of Odessa was given to Ukraine. Yeah, well, you cannot call that your capital. No, we won't. We want to call Kiev our capital. Oh, okay. Catherine the Great founded Odessa. And what came out was it last month or the month before? And he said, this is the Russians. When we get to Odessa, we're putting back up the statue of Catherine the Great, and we hope it hasn't been damaged. That's what he said. So you see, the way people look at things. And there's an old saying, isn't it? They're looking at rose-tinted glasses. But they believe what they read. There are people who look, if you've got an agenda, I haven't got an agenda, by the way, but I look at things, what has happened. I gave you a fine example of a fella named Vericus going to Rome and saying, listen, fine example. You always have to have a motive to go into a place. And what was the motive? The motive was to stop these fucking biolabs on the border of Ukraine by Hunter Biden. To stop the denazification of the Azovs. That'll never happen because they're everywhere. They're all over the world. This is why you've got the ultra far right who hope that Russia fall, which they won't anyway, because they want to see, the rise of these people, the Azovs. The rise of them. This is why, von der Leyen and the rest of them are going, oh, yeah, it's great. We'll pay Russia back. Don't forget, in the Second World War, it wasn't the Americans that got to Berlin or the British. It was Georgy Zhukov and the Soviet army. They took Berlin. And they sat there twiddling the thumbs when the Americans, you're all right, you can come in now, there's no more Nazis left. I know I'm being sarcastic, but that's the way it was. They could have took the whole of Berlin, the Russians. So they decided to split it in half, and that's why if you ever see a map from the likes of Poland right through down to Austria, they had this massive buffer zone simply because the likes of these Balkan states, they were full of Nazis. They all joined the Nazi army to fight the Soviets. That's why they said there's no more of them. The likes of Kaya Kallas, their family. That's why they hate Russia, because of it. And it was a massive buffer zone. They said, no more Nazis are going to mess with us. I'll tell you what you want to do. And you can get this on YouTube. One of my favourite pieces of music is the 1812 Overture. Right? The 1812 Overture, besides Puccini's Nessun Dorma. But I'm just saying. But the likes of that, and you can get the 1812 Overture with lyrics. You've got a choral, not just the music. You've got a choral, and it gives you the lyrics, it gives you what they're singing, and why Tchaikovsky wrote it. Fantastic. It's just like this country, lands of open glory, and Rule Britannia. Great they were, at the time. Brilliant. Because it's all patriotic stuff. How many times has people tried to invade Russia? Napoleon got to Moscow. And they said after Napoleon got there, no one else would get to Moscow. And they've been right. They didn't do it, the British didn't do it, or the French, when they went into Crimea. People don't realise that it wasn't just the British that were fighting the Russians, in Crimea. It was the French too. French alongside them. Michael J says, I call a spade, Frank, and you're spot on with what's happening in Ukraine. Although my good wife, Agata, would disagree being Polish. But there you go. It's you see, the Poles, what's it? Duda, is it? I get mixed up. Yeah, Duda. Well, he's the president, isn't he? And he's a bit of a Russophobe too, because the Soviets were there. But it's long over. These are a different breed. Tell Agatha, Michael. These are a different breed. The Russians. I just wish people had streamed Russia. Just wish they would. The peace-loving people. I was made up. I'm a big Liverpool supporter. And we're not going to Kiev. Well, they said they were having it in St. Petersburg, a couple of years later. I said to Francie, we're going. We're going to St. Petersburg. And she's always wanted to visit there, strangely enough. Because she always said that it's the Venice, isn't it? I said, yeah. And you know that St. Petersburg for years, have been asking, this, again, the American zone. Do you know, say like Pompeii, for example, and, they still want to carry on with the digs and, all this archaeological stuff. Well, they own the purse strings. Yeah, we'll fund you, go. like the lottery here, and you'd have to apply for some funding off the lottery, if you're lucky enough and you get it. Well, it's like that. And it goes worldwide. St. Petersburg have been asking for this funding for years. And I'll tell you for why. As I said, it's like Venice and it's sinking, so the water's, going up, but it's getting into buildings and it's getting into museums. And it got into, the water got into where they kept art. In the cellar. We have a cellar in the Walker Gallery where, fine paintings are worth a lot of money, millions. Because, they put different paintings up, they don't keep the shade out of it. So you see it's, anyway, they've been refused for years. They've been refused for years. Here's my nephew. Oh, look at that. Thanks for that, Fran. He was made up with it. That's the lad who got nothing. The kids have got their own bed now. 3 little kids. It's a big bed, you see. I think it's a king size. Just let me. I'm sorry about this. I'm awfully sorry. I'm awfully sorry about. I'm slow. How did you let me come? I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. I see when I gave him it was a big wooden headboard, and I mean solid. It's pure wood, not that MDF garbage, and there's like screws, that go in it to keep the headboards onto the divan, and I only had one. I said, James, I said, I can't find the other one. Found it before. I've just said, if you ever come down again, come, I've got it here, and you can give it to the lad. To secure it really. So, Michael, honestly, I understand that, but she has to understand that it's so much changed, and also what the kids tell her, that the kids, the fella who took up, I always forget these two fellas' names. When they put the puppet in Kiev in 2014, one of his first comments was, the children of the Donbass will be hiding and cowering in basements, while our children will be sat at school desks learning. That's what he said. What kind of a fucking person would say that? What kinds of I only posted on someone's post today, and it was about this fella holding up a card saying about school meals. No kids should go without a school meal. They all should be free, which I totally agree with. And I said I had to be careful with what I said, because you can't say too much now because of freedom of speech is gone. And I said, every child throughout the world should never be starving. Every single one of them. And think about a certain country, in brackets, which will not be named, that are actually starving children to death today. Fucking horrible. And these are kids. We've had kids. Kids when they're little beanie babies. I haven't said that word for years. Beanie. Little weenie babies. When they're little babies. And they cry, they want feeding. That's how they communicate. How many times have you gone out? I'm not being funny, you've gone out. You've had a great night and you go, I'll go and get a kebab. Or do you fancy a Chinese? How many times have you said it? You're hungry. So see, this is the philanthropist, because I said I've got that, when you come again and give it to give to the lad. He said, oh, fuck him. He said he's got a fantastic, more or less brand new bed. He said last that he can buy one. And he said, so don't be worried. He's great, Archie. He's a lovely lad. I knew about Ukraine as well, Frank says, that some people still believe mainstream media tells the truth always. I feel sad for the sheeple because they are idiots at times. No, they are idiots. They don't want to look. It's like anything. It's like anything, Craig. Like, I'm a Liverpool supporter. And when something goes wrong, it's like in I hate saying this fucking word, Hillsborough. And remember just a few years ago, oh, excuse me. Remember when we were supposed to go to St. Petersburg, play Real, and it was postponed. It sent it there, not Real, sorry. And they it was Real, wasn't it? And they postponed it to Paris. And our lads got beaten up. Our lads. And so did some the Real Madrid fans. And that was upsetting simply because the French were fed up with football. And, you know, I think about the Olympic Games, and they had all that, and it spoils all their holidays, and that's why they were getting beaten up. So I fear for things like that. I look into things. I've always looked into things ever since, you know, when my brain started functioning, if you know what I mean. You can't just take a word for someone. Remember, there's always two sides to a story. I remember this mate of mine used to, and he was, oh, you want to bet that? And, you know, listen, I'm going, no, I don't, you know, to myself, saying, I don't think he's like that. Another friend of mine, good friend as well. And I got his side of the story. See what I mean? Now, if I was to believe the first fella, but I stopped talking to him simply because it was a load of garbage he was giving me, trying to undermine and give this particular another friend of mine a bad name. And you know the way you think, he's not like that. But that's the way it is, Michael, you know, with Russia and Poland, and they're totally different, honestly, today. Because these people, this is since 1989, you know, well, 1990, really, with the Soviet Union gone. So you're talking what? Hey, you're talking 30 years. You know, well, and this, and people, you know, young people are not Soviets, they're Russian. So you're right there, Bert. Trump has ordered to tug. What's that? Say that the nuclear submarines. Trump has ordered to. Oh, submarines, you mean? Yeah, the nuclear submarines. Yeah, of course. Because Russia did there, but Russia have got bigger, better. Trump thinks if a nuclear war started, America would be wiped off the face of the earth, along with everyone else. Russia will as well. See, America. I wonder if Trump thinks that Russia is thousands of miles. Oh, it's on the fucking border of Alaska. This is why you want to see that. We've got to get into that North Pole. And he thinks that no missiles could get it. The Russians have ballistic missiles that cannot be shot down with big nuclear warheads. And this is his thinking, not in a lit America. It's like what he's thinking now about inflation won't hit America. Our economy is good. He's boasting about how great he's been since he's been in. And it's been shocking. It's been, do you remember that like a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, that they were there, all the Americans were complaining about the price of eggs. Recently, inflation is the, as they call it, the gas pumps. And don't forget as well, for diesel machines to keep going, there's only the oil from Russia that can mix to make the teas. Where else? And they've been trading even now today, whatever, with these mineral things. And once that, he'd have to put 100% tariffs on himself. Anybody who trades with Russia, 100% tariffs. And what right do America has to put tariffs on anybody? What right? And there's, India just said it out. I said, "Don't piss off. What bothered me?" China's just gone to that Besson fella. You what? Yeah, okay. See ya. And when von der Leyen went over there with a little party to just see the state, instead of giving them a stately welcome, he sent a bus to the plane. He sent a bus. And she just got off and, so these like, I don't know who they were, these Chinese gentlemen, to say, yeah, this way, you're coming this way. You just see him walking along like that, just following them into this building, humiliated. Xi Jinping's humiliated. And Putin with the trade deals. And he's just making a fool of himself. Is Mr. Putin, is Mr. Trump. And have you seen the pictures? Have you seen the pictures? I know they're funny though, but she was a model, wasn't she? And they've been putting pictures up of her. Melania, whatever it is, Melania. And not very nice pictures actually, when she was a model. And they've got an AI one up. It's not that funny. You see Putin, on the beach, holding Melania's hand, and she was a model. It's AI, But what kind of leader, a powerful leader at that as well as Trump? This is a mentality. What kind of man puts on social network? What he's going to do? Have you ever known the likes? And he does it. Even Putin's come out and said, why doesn't he have a private conversation? Why is he doing that? But anyway, yeah, I think that lad's gone, Perry. Meanwhile, Trump says we won the war. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like that Perry lad. If you'd have put a picture up, say like 3 years ago, before the SMO or anything, he's never known anything, about what was going on before that, before Russia went and said, he hasn't a clue. And if you'd have put up a picture of Europe and said, pick out Spain, he might have. Could have been because he goes to Benidorm every year. See what I mean? Pick out Italy. Because he knows that Italy is like the boot. But ask him about Garibaldi and Mazzini, will never fucking clue. And you say, pick out Ukraine. Now, don't forget, there's no wording of where it is. There's nothing there. It's blank. Do you think that he could have picked out Ukraine? No. Definitely not. People haven't a clue, especially the Americans. I always remember this fella going, I'll give you $1 if you tell me where your state is. Now, he had a king of America, all bordered off. The states bordered off, but without names on. Like Texas or Ohio or wherever. Right? And so where's your state here? Now, this fella was in Boston, Massachusetts. Never had a clue. And he actually pointed down towards California. You live here? Is this it? A student. Never had a clue. He asked this girl, another student, because he was around this campus, how many continents are there? What's a continent? Should have heard the questions. They would be, I couldn't answer. How many minutes in a quarter of an hour? 50. And he had this, it's like a clock. It was a clock, on a board. And it had I think it was 6:45 or something like that. How many minutes in a quarter of an hour? And he's showing them. One fella said 45. One fella said 20 odd. Another fella was and a girl, yeah. I'm awfully sorry about this, I don't know where I am. Just bear with me. I must have took the last thing off. Right, Bella says, Obama, you should be imprisoned with Tony Blair and the rest of them. And David Cameron. He was part of the Gaddafi thing. Michael J. What kind of president announces he's not until? Yeah, I'm sorry there. I've done that, didn't I? I'm sorry there, people. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I understood what you. I mean, to say Donald Trump was ordered 2 nuclear submarines. This was in the early old business example. While it's still yes, yeah. Now there's a question: would you trust for yourself? Would you trust the finger of Trump on a red button? And Red Bear said, Bella, your English is 100% better than my Italian. Bella, honestly, there's predictive text as well that comes out of it. A bit mad. They all do it. As I said, I sent a text out to this girl, friend of mine, good friend of mine, lovely girl, like yourselves, and the word bits was in it. And it was, I forget what it was, basically, and I was in bits. So try and work, I was in bits. I work out what was said with predictive text to it. Like, the first word was show. So think about bits, if you know what I mean. And I'm like, I never said that. I never said that. Oh, Frank, what are you like? That's what the answer got back. And Johan to Bella, we understand you just fine. Your English is quite good. Even if you type in Italian, we'll Google Google Translate and put it in the chat. Language is just a way to communicate. Has anybody ever seen the film Arrival? And there's a great scene in it where they're on this helicopter going to, about these big alien thing. And this physicist, astrophysicist, and he said, well, when you get the numbers, but there was this communication girl who, a language specialist, and she just looked at him and went, rather than just throw maths at them, why don't you just talk to them? Perfect. Great film, by the way, I love it. Thank you. That's nice. I love you people, honest. Love you. Good evening, Frankie Ladd says the Anfield Road. Look at all these for me. Now you've wet the whistle, let's discuss some world stories. I've just been doing it. I'm still doing it, like. Johan to the Anfield. Evening legend. Toscana. Lepers, I love speaking Italian, but sadly my parents have both passed. So I talk to myself. Same as my granddad. Sitting me on his knee. Just spoke to me in Italian, couldn't speak a word of English. And he died when he had 5 anni. No, è morte. Died when I was 5. And my lovely Italian language. Finito. There, mate. Oh, stop. It's great, isn't he, Alfredo? Giving everyone a drink. She's giving one back, Myra. Yeah. Myra, how are you? Petro Poroshenko. That's him. See, I always get mixed up. I'm sorry about this. This is about, like about my eyes. Jesus. What I've got, and they don't have. It's terrible, really. When the itch. So I'm waiting for, thank you, Johan. Poroshenko, horrible man, but they're all horrible. And as Steve Mulholland said, with this Zelensky, he's worse. This is why they want him in. They want this war to keep going on and on and on. Forevermore, they want to destroy Russia. Won't be destroyed. As I said, if you can get the lyrics up, the wording, the choral of the 1812, powerful. We'll protect protect our land, our people, just like any other anthem. Here comes the roar. And Frankie, I saw a report on working tradesmen who are British sleeping rough in this country due to circumstances in their lives or government contracts taking them out of their homes for I know, can't say anything. I could get into trouble, and I don't want anyone else to get into trouble, because they'll try to label it as hate speech. I know that. And it's not hate speech at all. It's not even opinion. It's the truth. It's the truth. We're saying the truth on here, and that lad who came on before, that very lad, I just said, give me some facts about these kids in Ukraine. Facts. Little does Perry know that the biggest organ trade, and I mean human organs, is by the Ukrainians. He doesn't know that. They're making a lot of money on it. Think about it. I wonder if he knows that now the conscription are 60+ year old men. 60+. Because they've got no men. I watched something about Liverpool, this lad put up last week, and it's shocking. About St John's Gardens, William Brown Street, and the bottom ends of where the Excelsior is in Taylor Street, bottom of Hatton Garden, and the top of Hatton Garden. Couldn't believe it. I think they took it down because I was looking for it. Even like I've got footage of, people didn't believe that Ukrainians were being dragged off the streets, beaten up in vans and brought somewhere, forced to join the army. And I don't know whether anyone's aware of this either, that when Zelensky had all journalists and investigative journalists imprisoned right at the beginning, because they were saying, hang on a minute, why didn't you sign the agreements? Why didn't you sign the peace plan in Istanbul? He had them all shut down, all the television stations. He had all them shut down, all the journalists imprisoned, and especially the investigative journalists. They said, you can either stay in there, rot and die, or you can join the military. So they joined the military. That's where they are today. Dead. That's what was going on. Wonder if anyone got a grip of that in the BBC. Don't think so. Toscana, I speak to myself. Well, my spirit. Young feel. My missus speaks to herself. She asked me some things, and I say, my love, I don't speak Italian. Now, get me dinner. Daddy has had hard days night. Do you know what? Do you know what? You know, you mentioning A Hard Day's Night. People don't realise the strong lyrics for that. No one realises. I think I'll do that next week. Not Friday, with the history of literature, because nevertheless it says literature no matter how you look at it. So I'll be doing that, and it's about working classes. Think about it. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. Think about that. And people try to use innuendo, and when I get on to you, I find the things that you do that makes me feel all right. Well, it is. Like as he comes home for working like a dog, he comes home, sees his wife, and she's done him something to eat. I find the things that you did cleaning up. Don't get me wrong about, like the typical woman thing, like the way men seen them, just cleaning up and cooking. But this is what they were saying. This is the lyrics that makes me feel all right, because he's just made up to have a meal in front of him after working like a dog. Right, so we'll be doing things like, especially the Beatles, because the Beatles remember Give Ireland Back. Remember that? Give Ireland Back. Like I've always said, what are we doing with Gibraltar? What are we doing with the Malvinas down in the South Atlantic? I always remember watching Granada reports, and do you ever remember that Bob, what's his name? Anyway, Bob. And he was going around, he was asking people, you know where the Falklands is? And every one of them was saying, are they up by the Hebrides? Are they up by the Orkneys? Never had a clue. Like those Americans didn't even know where their own state was. I shouldn't skit, should I? But that's the way they work. That's the way they are. Like that Perry lad. He wouldn't have known where. It's like the American lads going to Vietnam. They never had a clue where they were going. And they even said, why were we there? It's America starts everything. Why did they go to Korea? The excuse is hate communism and stop communism. Never fucking heard it. It's still splitting that. Freedom Jerry. Hi Frankenstein. Hey Freedom. Good to see you. Mara, you said hi earlier. I'm on it, girl. Says the red pit. Lovely. The Anfield. Donald Trump has moved Maxwell to lower level prison in the first steps towards a pardon. When asked, Trump said it was Epstein who did all the persuading. She, the daughter of that pensions thief. Robert. And where's he buried? Mount Olive. Mossad killed him. But you might think I'm being controversial here, but you look at it. She's the only one in prison. She's the only one in prison. Do you know, I remember going out, I was about 18. Now, this fella was older than us. And anyway, I was fucking left with him one night, Saturday night. In Tate Street. This is when the pub shut at 10:30. And he said to me, see that girl over there? And I went, what girl? That girl over there. I went, yeah. He said, go over and ask her if I can take her home. I said, okay. And I went over and I said to the girl, can he take you home? And she went, him? I said, him over there. Screw this. I'm not being big-headed. She said, I'd rather go home with you. And I went back and said, no, she's got a fella. That's what I said. Yes. He's a right prick. It turns out to be a twat anyway. Sorry to swear. What the hell happened there? What's happened? What's happened? Trump is simply trying to get the world to look elsewhere as the Epstein. Yeah, distraction. Everything's a distraction. Even now, I'll tell you what's a big distraction with Stormy. And that is, I'm going to recognise Palestinian as a state, you know. You know what that is? That's a distraction from all the evil things that he's doing. And all the stupid things that he's doing. So people will go, at least, you know. But he's put, like, things in front of it. What they do. First and foremost, Hamas has to go. You've got to ask yourself, who are the spokespeople for the Palestinians who have been getting slaughtered since 1948? Who's the spokespeople? You remember Yasser Arafat? He was speaking up for the money. But they had no one once he died. You know, but the other people who came in, he just got walked over. So getting back to Maxwell, she's the only one in jail. While there's more people who are far worse than me. Because what she was doing, she wasn't like going around saying, oh, she looks nice, I think I'll get her to go over and all this. She was told, just like I was told, go over and chat that girl. That's what she was told. Yeah, Mary became Beetlejuice now. What happened? I don't know what's happened. So I'd rather stay like that. Not knowing. Frankie, how comes your conspiracy office has pics of Linda Lusardi everywhere in the back? Do you remember Linda Lusardi? I forget when she, like, you know, she was a glamour girl and that, but she had a bit of a brain. I forget what she did, you know. I don't know whether she wrote books or what, something like that. I just forget. But she did have a bit of a brain rather than. Tuscan. I know of an ex-soldier who's having to sleep in his mum's couch. He went to ask for social housing and was told, sorry, not for you, lad. And led him to believe that illegals were. I know that, Toscana. I really do. I know firsthand. And I can't say it on here, unfortunately. I do know that personally. Johan, raw is a glitch. I said, Albie, Albie, nothing wrong with being a model, Frank. I used to model. I believe so, Mr. Superchat. Great to see, I was made up to see, you know, and then you got off the other night. Ambidextrous, look at that, eh? Do you know my teacher, honestly? The only man I've ever known to do it in my entire life. And I've been through education right from a little mad kid. See, he's writing a sentence. He used to write it. Started off with his left hand and carried on like this. You know, when they were boards, when I was at school. Right with his two hands. At the same time. He was a genius. And he came to see me. I was giving a talk at St. George's Hall in the concert room. And I seen him sitting there. It was shocking. He was right in the front. And he said, that was wonderful. He said, I'm so pleased for you because you had something, and he poked me there, you know, the something there that you wanted to do and you fulfilled it. Thank you, he said to me. He's my teacher. It's great when you get things like that from teachers. And for Toscana, it's also not even asylum seekers' fault. It's the government actually taking out its own citizens, and companies now getting the government contracts to do some 7-year contract. I told you why, didn't I, about the Americans and what they wanted to do to destabilize the Middle East. A couple of African countries, and so that the big odds would come into Europe and destabilize Europe. This is what's going on. I said that before. I was watching this fella, I thought he was dead. And I was watching him, part of him, on, you know, that Piers Morgan, he got roasted by an author named Scott Horton, roasted because of the things he was coming out with, this ex-General Clark. Because he had the piece of paper going back to the millennium, and he said these are the countries that have to be taken down. Libya, Iraq, Syria, and you know and the last one he said on the list is Iran. They will take Iran down. This was the same fella. I was watching, couldn't believe. I thought he was dead. Should have heard what he was saying. Shocking. About Russia. He thinks Russia. The way he was chatting, you think that he was. You think that if you were listening to him, you didn't know any Russians, or you didn't know anything about Russia, say like it was another country. Let's just say that you'd never heard of. You'd think that they were all subhuman, honestly, and violent. Shocking. Anyway, but Toscana, my mate, worked for the social services, and you wouldn't believe what the illegals get, much more than in public media tells us. And yes, illegals get priority. I know. I just look at our pensioners. They're in the twilight of well, not even in the twilight now, they're past the twilight, and they just, Michael J. It does what it says on the can. Trump, yeah. Yeah. I can't get my higher IQ actually checked. I did it, I had to go to a place and I did my IQ. And I've said it once, so I'm not telling you again what I got. Because people will go, "You what?" Honestly. So I said, "You're a genius." I said, "No, I'm not a genius." The American education scam is going to crumble soon. Discuss some financial implications, says Joe. It's shocking. Do you know that I got asked to go over to that Rockingham? Where OJ murdered his wife? And I was just after I got asked. I was asked. And I was asked to do, believe it or not, you're not going to believe, Shakespeare. Teach that. Did you know that some Yank said that Shakespeare wasn't English, he was an Italian? And someone said, "Well, how did you come up with that?" You're not going to believe what I'm going to say, but I'll tell you anyway. He said, "Well, how come he knew? He never left England, and he knew so much about Italy and Venice. Fucking, is that the best you can do? Because of the Merchant of Venice. So was that to be an Italian? I love Italy. No, mate. Got that fucking tongue. No, you're just a robot. Without AI. Do you know what? We're all robots. I'm telling you now. We're all robots. We all believe. No, we're not. We don't all believe. I'm sorry I said that. We're told what to believe. I'll have to paraphrase. I forget who said it. He said, "Don't believe all what you read. It's the truth. Have your own free thinking." Tell you who it was. Aristotle. But I paraphrased it. Have your own free thinking and free will. Don't believe everything that they tell you is the truth. Aristotle said that. Redbeards, I typed in Frank Carlisle into the chat GPT, and all it said was Tesla and Liverpool historian. Oh, the sex machine. Sex machine. I'm kidding. Oh, you're mad, you are. Johan, Arrival had multiple linguists working on it to create an alien language. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? You had them all over the world, but what country solved the barrier, the language barrier? Toscana, a Franco's predictive test. Honestly, yeah, you should have seen that text. Fucking hell. So I never mentioned bits ever again in any text. Well, finally the tree comes out, but I must say Frank Sex Machine was a bit of a shock to me. Peter Beardsley was decided to have the best linguistic skills for that role, the slop from the goodies. What's it? Can anybody remember? Can anybody, who's in the football show? I think it was the football show, and someone said about Beardsley, and they thought it. And they said, is he Croatian? So I thought he was a foreigner. So I was like, is he Croatian? Is he speaking Croatian? Oh, so funny. Loonies. That bears, who do you think Indiana Jones idea came from, says the Anfield. The invaders are here and they keep coming, says the Michael J. to the door. And the Anfield to the Michael J. It's very true and sad that the rate it's coming, the resentment comes from it being forced into our towns and no council knowledge. The government is buying buildings to keep them. Yes, so get rich quick for the hotel. No, do you know what? You're wrong there. Michael, you're wrong. I was listening to some, and they want the hotels back. There was one fella down the south coast who said, I want them out because they're getting less. And people were phoning up, like you go to the same hotel. When I go to Sorrento, I stay at the same hotel. When I go to Lido Diaz, I stay at the same hotel because you know what it's like and you get well looked after. And this fella said, I'm turning away my customers who have been with me for years and they'll never come back again. And they're losing lots and lots of tourists. I'm not naming the place because I might get into fucking trouble again. It's fucking wrong. Yes, they'll get rich quick for hotel owners, traitors. Honestly, Michael. And the Anfield, they are. It says exactly like the government contracts given during COVID, face covering. This is the biggest conspiracy going on in the multiple countries. My friend Bob Wooler told me Lennon was a bully and a coward, says Michael. No, I think Lennon was a great intellectual. John Lennon was a great intellectual. He fought for the working. I always remember about the working class hero, and he said, "How could they be fucking working class when he lived in Mimi's?" You haven't got to be working class, let's be honest, to have working class ideology, and then you can talk about it or sing about it, and that's what Lennon did. He took no fucking messing from anybody. That includes Bob Wooler, to be honest, Mr. Merseybeat. So it's one of those things. You either liked Lennon or you didn't. He's a Marmite character, but I liked him myself. He took no messing from anybody. Albie, any chance of getting a stripper with a snake on the show for the people in Scam? She's out there waiting for me now. Johan, like Tucker and Ted Cruz, what's the population? Exactly. And he went, "Oh, I don't be looking at things. I don't know. You don't know the population of the country you seek to top. How much is it worth? How much is it?" That was shocking, that was. I was made up that Cruz got hammered. But it was like that fella on and that what Shmuley, the rabbi. Fucking hell, he got lambasted as well. He was obnoxious, eh? Frank, says LB, have you ever thought of getting in touch with the Davenport's beer? Beer at home means Davenport's, that's the beer. Lots of cheer. No. Is that what you're into, though? I'll get you some beer if you ever come on the show. The Anfield. Our new kit is a masterpiece of beauty, says the Anfield. I cannot wait for the Anfield Roar again. I'm going to the Bilbao. Francine and my granddaughter are going. And they're going to the Charity Shield thing. To cheer for Diogo and all that. Oh. The Anfield. Frank, your IQ is coming to that casino with me, isn't it, lad? Okay, we agreed, lad. I want you full rain, man, on them tables. I'd surprise you what my IQ is. Tell you had a great IQ, very, was up there. Marilyn Monroe. Genius. You're right there. It is the pain, man. Look at that. That's a Brewster. That one, man. Redbird. Some people forget to like. Don't be worried. I don't know where Simon is, you know. Has anyone seen him? I haven't seen him. He wasn't on last night. He wasn't on tonight. The Anfield. Redbird, I agree. How can you not like fantastic Frankie? And there's great efforts on this pod. Get an old historian's algorithm up, please. Thank you. Yeah, look at this. We're coming into a chat. What time is it? Okay, now. Just bear with me on this. Please. Oh, jeez. Oh, I don't know. The illegals destroy every hotel they're in. Government pay to fix them. Invaders have cleaners, etc. They are treated like royalty. Everything is done for them, says the Redbird. Rabbi Shumley says ambidextrous. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And Michael says, Lennon battered Bob at night in Tina's Lane because Bob accused Lennon of having an affair with Epstein. See, look, look, no matter, you know, I've been accused of having an affair with someone, and I hadn't. I hadn't. I would have loved to have punched this person in the mouth. It turned out to be a lady. And I've never raised a hand to a lady in my life. I was in like, you know, even then going back then, I didn't want to start then. And it was it fucking ruined the relationship for me. And obviously, I said to the girl, I said, do you know that I've been accused of having an affair with you? I hardly know. I said, well, she said they won't believe us. If that's being said, they won't believe us. And they weren't, you know, wasn't, but I've seen that girl who was having the affair with years later. And she said, do you know what? Did you ever get over that? I said, yeah, I got over it, you know, but I said, it sticks, doesn't it? The mud. Do you know how Mud got the name? It sticks. That was through Dr. Mud, you know, who was hanged for the, as being a conspiracy to the murder or the assassination of Abe Lincoln, Dr. Mud. And that's how, you know, later on he said that's how mud sticks. That's how it was. I haven't seen Simon. So whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, I hope you have a fabulous time. I really do. You know, a good weekend. I've got this film and TV review in the morning. I've got to get my hair cut. Then I'm going out shopping later on. busy day. I might get it all shaved. Do you think it's truth? Shaved off, mad head. Well, they always start off well. And all as I wanted to get in was about Trump and his idiotic ways. I asked you, would you trust Trump with his finger on a red button? Would you? I don't know where it all went. I don't know. They'll all keep going. Jason isn't here. Everything can't stop. I'm missing out on their messages, comments. Frankie, I look out for your Francine and the little granddaughter. Will she have more salads on her shirt? You never seen Francine? I don't want to see it. She's doing. She said to me today. Was it today? Yeah. She said, "Dad, would you She said, "Dad, would you no. Let me get it. She said, "Dad, would you? Is there any chance that to have for me to have a podcast about comedy?" I said, "Yeah." No, so be good if you could. I don't know what she's going to do. I haven't a clue, to be honest. I don't know where she is on this fucking thing. Yeah, there she is. But she's gone back to black hair now. Gone back to my natural colour. See, look. You look at the roots. So look out for her with our little Sophie. Sophie's tall. It's great, our Sophie. Where are we? I don't know where the fuck I'm awfully sorry about this. I've missed out loads. Johan, thank you, Frank and Legends in the chat for have a great weekend, everyone. Love to all and many, and may peace prevail. Fucking terrible, isn't it? I just love. I've missed out. I'm awfully sorry if I've missed out on. They just keep going. I couldn't stop them. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a movie show tomorrow, Frank. Oh, right. Oh, that's good. I've got a good one for you, lads. It's a secret until tomorrow. I'll tell you what I'm watching now, and it's on YouTube, so I'll tell you now. And a lot of it is filmed in Liverpool. Around Water Street, exchange flags, and it's called Munich, and it's a wartime film. Munich. You know, like at the beginning of the war. Munich, it's called. And that's on YouTube. You know, I'll just put it always lying there like a big dumper. And then bang, you know, it's Liverpool. I just paused. I only seen a portion of a building. I went to Liverpool. And I let it play on and bang, there it is. Liverpool. It's good the way they done it as well. Really good. Listen, I'm so sorry if I never let out. I never had the control, unfortunately. Sorry. So anyway, thank you so much for joining in tonight. There you go. Munich is Mossad propaganda. Whoa, you wouldn't Coco. Haven't seen the end of it yet. Haven't seen the end of it. Thanks, Johan. When he wanted to see Liverpool. There are things, as you know, propaganda. This fucking Zelensky, Trump, and that lad who came on, and, you know what I mean? These people, they don't want to know the truth, unfortunately, because they think the truth is what they say and read. Not only that, we're called puppets for some reason. I'm not a puppet to anyone. Perry the platypus. So, you know, it's as it says, we've been given labels, haven't we, very recently, just labels, and you're not supposed to say anything. And this is why we have to be very careful. It's like, you know, when you're saying about the illegals and the priorities. Wished I could say something, can't. Wish. And are we going to pull out of the ESAC? So everyone's been going FSG and Grace. They'll all be going. They won't spend. It doesn't go here. But we need an airstriker. I wonder if they go for a cheap version, like another Darwin. And on that wonderful note, I've just got to thank Jason for setting everything up. Most importantly, I've got to thank you for joining me tonight. It's been wonderful. Very intelligent comments. Really. Right up there. Got to thank our lovely ladies who have joined us as well. Thank you. And see some of you tomorrow, hopefully. I bet you the Redbirds will be going to Chippy at 10:30 in the morning. I'll say on Monday. Oh, I'll be watching. I won't be having a show on Monday. Be watching the game or the games. And Isak is definitely going to Liverpool first bit. It means nothing. Says Johan, our friend Johan. Take care, friends, says the lovely Myra, all the way from South Africa. She's a lovely girl. Knows the stuff as well. Did you hear that? I'm gonna give, on social street thing, Trump. I'm going to give Putin tariffs, 100% tariffs, and other stuff, and other stuff. And that's what I think it was Michael J. who said about it. It's a distraction from, other major things, especially the Epstein. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. Take care, Myra Page. And Myra back to Johan. Really tired, Do I see a fly before me? Sure as you see that. Then you see a thing going past. And on that wonderful note, Trump deploys nuclear subs to Russia. I'll tell you where there's nuclear subs. Cuba. Just there. And there's a couple of subs that can stay submerged for a couple of years. What a wonderful note. Right, so I'll see some of you tomorrow, hopefully. And be Tuesday. Next time I'll see you after tomorrow. Because as I said, I'll be watching the game friendly. Joanne, I just done that. Look at that there. And on that wonderful note, from Mona and Frank, as usual, I'll see you all. Well, I'll see most of you next week, some of you tomorrow. Thank you so much to our wonderful Italian ladies, mille grazie. Buonanotte. Buonanotte. And to you lot, ci vediamo. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye. See you tomorrow, next week. Prossimo settimane. Okay? See you.